Mark adjusted the straps of his backpack and stepped out of the shuttle onto the soft, glowing surface of the alien planet. The air shimmered with a faint purple light, and the ground beneath him seemed almost alive, pulsing gently as if responding to his presence. He had never seen anything like it, and yet there was a strange familiarity that made him feel cautiously at ease. He took a deep breath, checking his instruments. The signal had led him here, deep in the uncharted region of the galaxy, and he knew that whatever lay ahead would test more than just his skills. It would challenge his courage, his mind, and perhaps even his patience. The ruins of the research station appeared ahead, half buried in the shimmering dust. Its metallic surface had been weathered over centuries, yet the sharp, geometric lines hinted at the intelligence of its builders. Mark approached slowly, careful not to make unnecessary noise. Every step he took produced a soft crunch, and he felt eyes, or at least sensors, watching him from the shadows. Inside, the station was surprisingly intact. Screens flickered with alien symbols, and holographic displays floated midair, projecting star charts and biological data. Mark ran his gloved hands over the console, scanning the data streams. The station seemed abandoned, but there was a rhythm to the readings, a pulse that suggested it was alive in its own way. He was about to call in his findings when a soft voice echoed through the chamber. "You want to know if I'm not wearing anything underneath?" Mark froze. The voice was melodic, slightly amused, but he quickly realized it came from a holographic projection. A figure appeared before him, a tall, slender alien with shimmering, iridescent skin and eyes that reflected the light of the station in every color of the spectrum. Her presence was commanding, yet not threatening. She studied him with a curious tilt of her head. Mark swallowed, trying to find his composure. "I'm not sure I understand," he said. His voice sounded small in the vast chamber. The alien smiled faintly. "You are human," she said, her accent musical and strange. "And humans react to stimuli in unusual ways. I am testing your understanding, your reactions." Mark realized he had stumbled into an experiment. The alien was not here to attack him. She was observing him. Every instinct he had trained for dangerous encounters surged, but he forced himself to remain calm. He knew that showing fear or aggression could complicate the situation. "My name is Mark," he said, standing a little taller. "I am an explorer. I follow signals, learn, and document. I mean no harm." The alien nodded. "I am Lyra. You are curious, cautious, and brave. That is why I am interested in your kind. Humans are unpredictable." Mark took a careful step closer, his eyes scanning the room. "I received a signal from this station. It led me here. Why am I part of an experiment?" Lyra's eyes glittered. "This station studies behavior of species, reactions, strategies. You are the first human I have encountered here. The question I asked was not meant to test your modesty, but your ability to understand context, to navigate uncertainty." Mark's mind raced. He had encountered alien intelligence before, but nothing like this. She was analyzing him, but not with weapons or traps. She was using psychology, subtle cues, and observations. It reminded him of a chess game where each move mattered. He needed to think carefully. "I understand," he said slowly. "You want to see how humans handle unknown situations. I can do that. I can adapt." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Adaptation is essential. Humans are capable of courage, problem-solving, and empathy. You are interesting." The station hummed as if in response. Screens shifted, lights danced across the walls, and the air pulsed with a strange energy. Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. The station seemed almost alive, observing him as much as Lyra did. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed through the chamber. A display flashed red. Security drones activated. Small, hovering machines zipped from hidden compartments, their sensors locking onto Mark. He realized that the station had safeguards, tests for intruders or untrained visitors. Lyra's expression remained calm. "The test begins," she said. "Show me your ingenuity, human, survive." Mark's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay composed. He analyzed the drones, noting their patterns and movement. They were fast but not unpredictable. Using a combination of agility and improvisation, he dodged their attacks, creating small distractions by triggering holographic panels. Every move he made was deliberate, each action testing the limits of his skill and mind. Lyra observed silently, occasionally offering subtle hints, her gestures almost imperceptible. Mark noticed them, a shift of her hand, a flicker in her eyes, and used the cues to outmaneuver the drones. He realized that Lyra was not trying to harm him. She wanted to see if he could think under pressure, to demonstrate the qualities of his species. After a tense series of maneuvers, Mark managed to deactivate the drones using a combination of the station's own systems and his quick thinking. He stood panting, covered in sweat, but uninjured. Lyra approached, her eyes reflecting a mix of amusement and admiration. "You are clever," she said softly. "Most fail at this stage. You combine instinct, logic, and courage. I am impressed." Mark wiped his forehead. "Thank you, but why me? Why humans?" Lyra's gaze softened. "Humans possess qualities my species has only observed from afar: resilience, creativity, moral judgment. You are capable of empathy even under stress, of adapting without losing your sense of self. That is rare in the galaxy." Mark felt a mixture of pride and curiosity. "What is this station for, really?" Lyra's expression became serious. "This station studies species to prepare for alliances, for cooperation, and for conflict. It is a way to understand potential partners or threats. You arrived at a critical moment. Your actions here will influence not only how I view humans, but how my people might interact with your colonies." The weight of her words sank in. He was not just exploring, he was representing humanity in a way he had never imagined. Every decision, every action could have consequences far beyond his understanding. Lyra stepped closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial tone. "I will show you something few have seen, but you must be willing to trust your instincts and trust me." Mark nodded, curiosity outweighing caution. "I will. Show me." The lights in the station shifted, revealing a hidden chamber. It was filled with strange devices, glowing crystals, and holographic projections of distant worlds. Lyra moved to a console, her fingers dancing across the controls. The holograms responded instantly, displaying star maps, biological data, and simulations of interstellar interactions. "This is the real purpose of the station," Lyra explained. "We study potential alliances, conflicts, and survival strategies. And now, you will help me test one scenario, a scenario where humans might succeed where others fail." Mark stepped forward, examining the projections. The simulations were complex, showing entire ecosystems, civilizations, and potential threats. It was overwhelming, but he focused on what he knew best: human ingenuity, problem-solving, and adaptability. Lyra's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "You are not only surviving, human. You are learning, analyzing, predicting. These are the traits that make your species remarkable." Mark realized that the whispered question from earlier was not just a test of decorum. It was a test of observation, empathy, and judgment. He smiled faintly. "I see now. Every question, every moment is part of the challenge." Lyra nodded. "Exactly. You are beginning to understand. But the true test is ahead. You will face challenges that cannot be solved by strength alone, only by intelligence, courage, and moral choices." Mark felt a surge of determination. He had trained for dangerous missions, studied alien cultures, and survived harsh environments, but this was different. This was a test of everything that made humans unique, and he was ready. The station hummed louder, the air vibrating with energy. Holographic panels shifted, revealing a new simulation, one that depicted an approaching threat, a situation where humans and aliens could be in conflict. Lyra looked at him intently. Your actions now will shape the outcome. Will you rise to the challenge, human? Mark squared his shoulders, his mind sharp and focused. I will. Whatever comes, I will do my best. A soft smile crossed Lyra's face. Good. Then let us begin. As the simulation came alive, Mark realized that he was no longer just an explorer. He was a representative of humanity, a symbol of courage, intelligence, and resilience in a galaxy full of unknowns. Every choice he made would matter, not just for him, but for his species. And for the first time, he felt a deep sense of purpose, a connection to something larger than himself. The station glowed brighter, the hum of energy surrounding them like a living organism. Mark and Lyra stood together, facing the challenge ahead, each aware that the journey would test their limits, their understanding, and their trust in one another. In that moment, Mark knew one thing for certain. Humanity was capable of greatness, and he was ready to prove it. The station's energy pulsed around Mark and Lyra as the simulation projected a galaxy filled with potential threats. Stars shimmered, alien worlds rotated slowly, and distant fleets moved like chess pieces across the holographic grid. Mark felt a sense of awe and responsibility. Every decision in the simulation could affect entire civilizations, and he understood that Lyra was testing more than his intelligence. She was testing his judgment, his morality, and his ability to anticipate consequences. Lyra gestured toward the main console, her fingers tracing patterns in midair. This is the scenario, she said. A conflict is approaching your colonies. You must devise a solution that saves lives, maintains alliances, and demonstrates your species' unique qualities. Strength alone will not succeed. You must use strategy, creativity, and understanding. Mark studied the projections carefully. The simulation showed several alien factions, each with different motives and technologies. Some were aggressive, others cautious, and some neutral. The complexity was overwhelming, but he began to break it down, examining the motivations, strengths, and weaknesses of each faction. He realized that brute force would only escalate the conflict. What humans could offer was adaptability, negotiation, and creative problem-solving, traits that few species could match. I need to understand each faction's goals, he said aloud, tapping the console to access detailed information. Then I can predict their moves and propose a plan that avoids unnecessary violence. Lyra observed silently, her eyes studying every detail of his thought process. Your approach is thoughtful, she said. Humans are often impatient or reactive. You are cautious yet decisive. That is rare, Mark nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. I want to do this right. Lives are at stake. If I make a mistake, it could cost everything. The simulation shifted, showing a fleet of aggressive aliens moving toward a human colony. Mark analyzed their formation, noting their weaknesses and strengths. He calculated distances, speeds, and potential strategies. He considered diversion tactics, diplomatic communication, and even the use of environmental advantages like asteroid fields or planetary shields. Every option was weighed carefully and every move had consequences. Lyra's voice broke the silence. You see, humans can adapt to chaos. You can find solutions when others fail. Your species' greatest strength is not in weapons or technology alone, but in ingenuity, creativity, and moral decision-making. Mark paused, thinking deeply. Then I will use those strengths. I will create a plan that protects the colonies without unnecessary conflict, and that shows other species the value of cooperation. Lyra's eyes sparkled with approval. Begin, she said, stepping back and letting him take full control of the simulation. Mark initiated his strategy. He sent small exploratory ships to establish communication with the approaching fleet, using neutral signals and clear intentions. He deployed drones to monitor their movements, creating illusions of greater strength to discourage aggression. He adjusted planetary defenses subtly, not to threaten, but to protect civilians. And he created contingency plans in case negotiations failed, ensuring that the human colonies would survive any unforeseen action. Hours seemed to pass as he worked, every decision precise and deliberate. Lyra watched closely, occasionally offering subtle guidance but never interfering. Mark felt the pressure mounting, but he stayed focused. He was not only solving a puzzle, he was proving humanity's value in the galaxy. Finally, the simulation reached a critical moment. The alien fleet paused, responding to the human strategy. Instead of attacking, they opened channels for communication. Negotiations began, and the simulation showed a peaceful resolution forming. Colonies were protected, alliances strengthened, and conflict avoided. Lyra's expression softened into a rare smile. "You have succeeded," she said. "This is more than strategy. This is human creativity, courage, and morality in action. Few species could achieve this outcome." Mark exhaled, relief washing over him. He had navigated a challenge that tested his mind, his judgment, and his instincts. "I couldn't have done it alone," he admitted. "Your guidance helped, and observing the system gave me insight. But humans, we can adapt. We can think when others panic. We can find solutions when there seem to be none." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and that is why you are important. Humanity has potential more than even you might realize. Your species, ingenuity, empathy, and courage are unmatched in many ways. You can face challenges that others would fail to navigate. You are remarkable." Mark felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had faced danger, tested his skills, and emerged victorious, but he understood that true greatness was not in victory alone. It was in understanding, in using intellect and morality to guide action, and in inspiring others to follow the same path. The station's lights shifted again, revealing a hidden chamber beyond the main console. Mark and Lyra approached cautiously, and he noticed an array of devices and crystals, unlike anything he had seen before. Some emitted soft light, others vibrated with energy, and a few projected faint holograms of unknown star systems. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with anticipation. "This is the next test. Observation alone is not enough. You must interact, influence, and understand deeper systems. This chamber holds data and tools that few have ever used. You will learn not only about strategy, but about trust, intuition, and leadership." Mark felt a thrill of excitement. Every challenge in this station pushed him to his limits, and yet he relished the opportunity. He studied the devices carefully, recognizing patterns and functions. He touched a glowing crystal, and a holographic map expanded, showing not only physical systems but connections between species, alliances, and conflicts. It was a web of information, almost overwhelming in its complexity, but Mark began to untangle it with careful thought. He realized that the true test was not only survival or strategy, but understanding relationships, motivations, and consequences. Every decision he made affected more than immediate outcomes. It influenced perceptions, alliances, and the potential for cooperation or conflict across the galaxy. Lyra watched silently, occasionally pointing out subtle details or nuances. Mark absorbed every lesson, every observation, and every subtle hint. He began to understand the depth of the experiment. Lyra was not simply testing intelligence or bravery. She was studying the human capacity for empathy, creativity, and moral judgment under pressure. Hours passed, and Mark worked tirelessly, analyzing the interconnected systems, predicting outcomes, and proposing solutions. Lyra observed, occasionally adjusting simulations to introduce unexpected variables. Alien factions shifting alliances, natural disasters affecting colonies, and internal conflicts threatening stability. Each challenge required quick thinking, adaptability, and ethical consideration. Through it all, Mark demonstrated the qualities that Lyra had praised: courage, intelligence, empathy, and ingenuity. He navigated crises without panic, adapted to new information, and maintained a focus on long-term solutions rather than short-term gains. Finally, the chamber quieted, the simulation stabilizing. Lyra turned to Mark, her expression filled with approval. You have done more than survive. You have understood, influenced, and created solutions that reflect the best qualities of humanity. You have shown that your species is capable of greatness, and that your courage and intellect are powerful tools in a galaxy of uncertainty. Mark felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a deeper understanding of responsibility. He had learned that true strength was not measured by force alone, but by the ability to think critically, act ethically, and adapt to challenges with courage and intelligence. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze focused on him. You are ready for the next stage, but know this: the challenges ahead will test more than your mind. You will face situations where morality, trust, and empathy are as important as skill and intelligence. Are you prepared? Mark nodded, determination burning in his eyes. I am ready. Whatever comes, I will do my best, not just for myself but for humanity. Lyra's eyes softened with approval. Then we move forward. The galaxy is vast, filled with uncertainty, and your journey has only begun. But I have no doubt, you will continue to demonstrate what makes humans extraordinary. As the chamber's lights shifted again, Mark felt a mixture of anticipation and resolve. He had survived tests, demonstrated his skills, and proven humanity's potential. Yet he knew that the path ahead would be even more challenging, requiring not only intellect and courage, but trust, empathy, and creativity. For the first time, Mark truly understood the responsibility of being human in a galaxy filled with unknowns. He realized that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons, technology, or speed, but in the combination of intelligence, courage, and moral judgment. And he was determined to show that humans could rise to any challenge, no matter how complex or dangerous. The station hummed around them, alive with energy, anticipation, and the promise of further tests. Mark and Lyra stood together, ready to face whatever trials awaited, each aware that the journey ahead would shape not only their own futures, but the future of humanity among the stars. And as the simulations faded, leaving the chamber bathed in soft light, Mark felt a profound sense of purpose. Humanity had the power to overcome, to inspire, and to thrive, even in the most challenging and unfamiliar corners of the galaxy. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. The chamber hummed softly as Mark and Lyra prepared for the next simulation. The holographic displays projected an intricate web of worlds, civilizations, and fleets, all interconnected in ways that were hard to follow at first glance. Mark took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Every choice he made could affect not only human colonies but the balance of multiple alien civilizations. He reminded himself to stay calm, focused, and logical. This was more than a test, it was a lesson, and perhaps a turning point for humanity itself. Lyra watched him closely, her eyes reflecting both curiosity and respect. This scenario is the most complex you will face, she said. It is not about strategy alone. It is about understanding, trust, and the ability to act decisively when consequences are uncertain. Mark studied the simulation, noting a sudden spike of activity among several alien factions. There were signs of conflict brewing, trade disputes escalating, fleets maneuvering aggressively, and colonies in peril. It was chaotic, but he had learned from previous tests. He focused on finding patterns, understanding motivations, and predicting outcomes. He began by sending subtle signals to the most aggressive factions, testing their willingness to negotiate. Small ships carried messages of peace, warning, and compromise. At the same time, he deployed drones to monitor and protect vulnerable colonies. Every action was calculated, designed to prevent escalation while keeping all options open. Lyra observed silently, noting the way Mark analyzed data, made decisions, and adapted to unexpected variables. "You are learning quickly," she said. "Humans have a unique combination of foresight and moral judgment. You do not simply react. You plan, you reason, you anticipate. That is rare in this galaxy." The first major test came quickly. One of the factions, a technologically advanced species with aggressive tendencies, ignored Mark's signals and began advancing toward a human colony. The simulation flashed warnings. Casualties were imminent unless action was taken. Mark's mind raced. He could not use force alone. That would escalate the conflict. Instead, he devised a plan to use environmental advantages and strategic deception. He calculated the positions of nearby asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies. Using drones, he created false signals and projected holographic decoys, making the advancing fleet believe that reinforcements were waiting. At the same time, he sent precise diplomatic messages, appealing to logic and mutual benefit. The fleet slowed, confused by the projections and reconsidering their approach. Lyra's eyes brightened. "Clever," she whispered. "You are not just surviving, you are influencing events, shaping outcomes, and demonstrating human ingenuity. Few species could manage such precision under pressure." The situation escalated further. Another faction, previously neutral, reacted to the disturbance and considered attacking human colonies. Mark quickly adapted, coordinating a network of alliances. He leveraged previous actions, showing each faction the benefits of cooperation and the risks of aggression. Slowly, the tides began to turn. Colonies were protected, conflict was avoided, and the aggressive factions paused, reassessing their choices. Mark felt a surge of satisfaction, but he knew the final test was coming. The simulation shifted dramatically, revealing a hidden threat, a massive alien armada approaching the sector with unknown intentions. Its power surpassed anything Mark had seen in the earlier projections. The fleet moved deliberately, threatening human and alien colonies alike. There was no simple solution. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm but urgent. "This is the ultimate test. You must find a solution that prevents disaster, protects the innocent, and demonstrates human leadership. You have the skills, knowledge, and insight, but will you act decisively when the stakes are highest?" Mark examined the fleet, noting its strengths and weaknesses. He realized that direct confrontation would be disastrous. He had to combine diplomacy, strategy, and creative problem-solving. He reached for the console, analyzing every variable and projecting multiple outcomes. He began by creating a communication channel with the Armada, using a universal code that combined logic, ethics, and reasoning. He emphasized the value of cooperation and highlighted the potential consequences of conflict. At the same time, he orchestrated a series of maneuvers with nearby fleets, creating the appearance of a coordinated defense without provoking violence. The Armada paused, responding to the signals. Mark adjusted his strategy in real time, predicting their reactions and presenting solutions that allowed them to save face while avoiding unnecessary destruction. It was a delicate balance, requiring intuition, calculation, and patience. Hours passed as Mark worked tirelessly. Every decision was critical, every projection had consequences, and every action had to be precise. Lyra watched silently, rarely intervening, allowing him to navigate the challenge on his own. Finally, the Armada agreed to negotiations, their movements slowing as they considered Mark's proposals. Human colonies were safe, and nearby alien civilizations acknowledged the benefits of cooperation. The simulation shifted to show the long-term effects. Alliances strengthened, trade routes stabilized, and peace was maintained in a sector that had once teetered on the brink of war. Lyra's expression softened into a rare smile. "You have succeeded, Mark. You have not only solved the problem, you have demonstrated the very qualities that make humans remarkable: courage, intelligence, empathy, and moral judgment. You have proven that your species can rise above chaos and uncertainty. Mark exhaled deeply, a mix of relief and pride washing over him. I did what I could, he said. I relied on what humans do best: adapt, think, and act with integrity. Lyra nodded. Yes, and that is why you are important. Your actions show that humans are capable of leadership, influence, and greatness. You have earned respect, not just from me, but from the galaxy that observes potential allies and threats. You are a true representative of your species. Mark looked around the chamber, noticing the soft glow of the crystals and the quiet hum of the station. Everything he had experienced, the tests, the simulations, the challenges, had prepared him for this moment. He understood now that true strength was not measured by weapons or force alone, but by the combination of intellect, courage, and empathy. Lyra stepped closer, her voice gentle. There is one final lesson, she said. Trust. Humans often hesitate to trust in uncertain circumstances, yet trust is essential for cooperation and survival. You have learned to trust your instincts, your judgment, and your ability to act ethically. That is the greatest quality of all. Mark nodded, understanding fully. He realized that the whispered question from their first encounter, the one that had seemed provocative or mysterious, was never about him personally. It had been a test of observation, understanding, and reaction. It had challenged him to remain composed, thoughtful, and aware of context. He had succeeded because he trusted his instincts and maintained his integrity. The station's lights shifted, bathing the chamber in a warm, gentle glow. Lyra looked at him with admiration. You have completed the tests. You have proven humanity's worth. Your species can face challenges that others cannot, not because of brute strength, but because of courage, intelligence, and morality. Mark felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced challenges that tested every aspect of his being, yet he had prevailed. He had shown that humans were capable of greatness in a galaxy filled with unknowns. Lyra smiled faintly. And now, she said, her voice soft but carrying a hint of playfulness, you understand the value of observation, judgment, and trust. And perhaps, one day, you will teach others the same lessons. Humanity has potential beyond what even you might realize. Mark returned her smile, feeling a connection beyond words. I will do my best, for humans, for allies, and for the future. The station hummed around them, a living entity of light and energy, as if acknowledging his words. Mark understood that this was only the beginning of a much larger journey. He had learned that true heroism was not about fighting battles alone, but about thinking, adapting, and acting with courage and integrity. As the simulations faded and the chamber returned to quiet, Mark and Lyra stood together, aware of the bond forged through trials, challenges, and mutual respect. They had faced uncertainty, danger, and moral dilemmas, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what the galaxy held. Mark realized that humanity's greatest strength was not technology or physical power. It was the ability to think, to empathize, to adapt, and to act with courage and integrity. That was what made humans extraordinary, and it was a lesson he would carry with him for the rest of his life. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay beyond the station. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, and he was determined to continue that legacy among the stars. And as he moved through the glowing corridors with Lyra at his side, he felt a profound sense of hope and purpose. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but he knew that humans could rise to meet any obstacle, solve any problem, and thrive, even in the face of the unknown. Mark smiled faintly, thinking of the first words Lyra had whispered to him. It had been a test, a challenge, and a lesson. Now he understood. Humanity's courage, intelligence, and integrity were what truly mattered, and with that he was ready to step boldly into the future. The station pulsed once more, a quiet acknowledgement of their success. Mark knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had shown its worth, and the galaxy would take notice. Together, he and Lyra would continue to navigate the unknown, proving that humans could not only survive, but excel, in a universe filled with wonder and danger.